The Twilight Zone has long been a symbol of eerie brilliance, twisting reality into mind-bending tales that kept audiences captivated. But what happened to the actors who brought those unsettling stories to life? For many, fame was fleeting, and their paths took tragic or unexpected turns, shaped by accidents, struggles, and the unpredictable nature of Hollywood. In 2025, where are they now? Have they found redemption, success, or remained haunted by their past? Join us as we delve into the mysterious and often heartbreaking journeys of the cast members from one of television's most legendary series. Rod Serling, who served as the enigmatic host and creator of The Twilight Zone, was 35 years old when the anthology first aired in 1959. With his penetrating voice and haunting monologues, Serling gave the series its moral gravity and cerebral edge. A gifted writer who battled constant studio censorship, his post-Twilight Zone career was riddled with disappointment. Projects like Night Gallery lacked the creative freedom he once wielded, leading to frequent creative clashes. Serling married his college sweetheart, Carol Serling, in 1948. Though they had 2 daughters, Anne and Jody, Serling's long absences and stubborn temperament strained their union. Though they never divorced, their marriage suffered under the weight of his workaholism and growing health issues. A World War II paratrooper haunted by combat trauma, Serling chain-smoked up to 4 packs a day and struggled with depression and survivor's guilt. He underwent multiple heart surgeries and died from complications of open-heart surgery on June 28, 1975, at the age of 50. His death was a devastating loss to American television and literature. At the time of his passing, his estate was estimated at $1.5 million, a modest sum, given his profound cultural impact, much of which has only grown posthumously. Jay Overholtz, who portrayed various characters throughout The Twilight Zone, was 37 when the series premiered. Often cast in roles that demanded subtle emotional shifts, sometimes as soldiers, other times as background townsfolk or startled victims, he brought a quiet realism to each part. Despite his frequent presence on the show, Overholtz never became a household name. Typecast as a character actor, his career faltered after the series ended. His personal life was equally troubled. He married costume designer Ruth Felder in 1954, but their union ended in 1962 amid rumors of infidelity and alcohol abuse. They had one son, Jeremy, whom Overholtz seldom saw. Following the divorce, he led a transit life, taking odd jobs and living out of motels. Plagued by depression and financial hardship, he tried to revive his career but was repeatedly rejected. On April 25, 1966, his life was abruptly cut short at the age of 43 in a car accident reportedly caused by drunk driving. At the time of his death, his estate was worth less than $50,000, and he was largely forgotten by Hollywood, an anonymous casualty of its ruthless machinery. Vaughn Taylor, who appeared in several Twilight Zone episodes, was 49 when the show debuted. Known for his cerebral, melancholy characters, men weighted by regret or paranoia, Taylor often portrayed academics, loners, or doomed authority figures. His ability to convey anxiety without excess made him indispensable to the show's tense atmosphere. Despite his on-screen poise, Taylor struggled with profound insecurity off-camera. He married actress Ruth Moss in 1950, a union that was plagued by emotional distance and long separations due to touring commitments. They had no children, and Taylor often described himself as married to the craft. His post-Zone career included Psycho and In Cold Blood, but many roles were uncredited or quickly forgotten. He battled chronic arthritis and hearing loss in later years, which isolated him from the industry and friends. Suffering from increasing dementia and left penniless after poor financial investments, Taylor died on April 26, 1983, at age 73, alone in a Los Angeles nursing home. His estate was worth an estimated $100,000, much of it in residuals that barely covered his medical care. Jack Klugman, who appeared in 4 unforgettable Twilight Zone episodes, was 38 when he joined the series. His portrayals, particularly in A Game of Pool and In Praise of Pip, showcased his raw emotional power and nuanced grasp of human fragility. Though he achieved immense fame later with The Odd Couple and Quincy, M.E., Klugman's life behind the scenes was often marked by turmoil. He married actress Brett Summers in 1953. Though they never officially divorced, they separated in the late 1970s amid tensions over infidelity and career rivalry. They had 2 sons, David and Adam, both of whom struggled with substance abuse. Klugman himself fought a decades-long addiction to alcohol and was diagnosed with throat cancer in the 1980s, which permanently damaged his voice. Though he continued acting with a rasping whisper, the illness profoundly changed him. He remarried later in life but was estranged from his sons during his final years. Klugman died on December 24, 2012, at the age of 90 from prostate cancer. At the time of his death, his estate was estimated at $3 million, a modest fortune reflecting a long and turbulent career marked by brilliant highs and devastating lows. John Anderson, who portrayed multiple roles across 4 Twilight Zone episodes, was 37 years old when the show premiered in 1959. Known for his intense eyes and weathered features, Anderson excelled in playing stoic, often haunted men grappling with time, mortality, or guilt. Despite a robust acting portfolio, his post-Twilight Zone career was riddled with disappointment. Typecast as the hardened loner, his attempts to branch into more mainstream roles were met with indifference. He married Patricia O'Brien in 1951, and though the union lasted until his death, it was fraught with emotional distance and long separations due to his work. They had 1 daughter, Kathleen, with whom he had a fragile relationship. Life was not kind to Anderson. He suffered from chronic arthritis, lost his brother in Vietnam, and dealt with the mental decline of his wife in later years. His daughter struggled with addiction, which weighed heavily on him in his later life. Anderson died of a heart attack on August 7, 1992, at the age of 69. He passed away alone in his Sherman Oaks home, his last days marked by regret and disillusionment. His estate, valued modestly at $600,000, was split between his estranged daughter and various charities he once supported quietly. Barney Phillips, who appeared in several Twilight Zone roles, most famously as the Venusian counterman in Will the Real Martian Please Stand Up?, was 46 years old when the series began. He brought a grounded, no-nonsense quality to his characters, often portraying lawmen or blue-collar skeptics. Though he found consistent work, stardom always eluded him, leaving him with a gnawing sense of failure. Phillips married Marjorie Graham, a schoolteacher, in 1948. Their marriage, while enduring until his death, was distant. They slept in separate rooms for the last decade. They had 2 sons, Martin and Alan, both of whom pursued lives far removed from Hollywood and seldom visited. Phillips suffered from clinical depression, compounded by the deaths of his parents in a car crash, a failed early career as a jazz musician, and the quiet erasure of his name from the industry by the 1970s. He died of cancer on August 17, 1982, at the age of 68, in a hospice facility with no family present. His estate, worth approximately $450,000, was largely untouched and left to his children, who reportedly auctioned off most of his belongings. Cyril Delavanti, who was 72 when he first graced the Twilight Zone, played characters steeped in mystery, often wise or otherworldly, lending a spectral air to episodes like A Piano in the House and The Silence. Delavanti had worked in theater and film since the 1930s, but by the 1960s, he found himself relegated to eerie old men and ghostly figures. He married Eva Kitty Cheeseman in 1913, and they had 1 daughter, Frances. While he adored the theater, it strained his family life. His constant absences made him a distant father. Frances moved to Europe in her 20s and rarely returned. Tragedy was familiar to Cyril. He endured the bombing of his London home during World War II, lost 2 siblings to influenza in the 1920s, suffered partial hearing loss, and was diagnosed with stomach ulcers that left him in chronic pain. Despite this, he continued to work until shortly before his death. He died on December 13, 1975, aged 88, from complications of lung cancer. His estate was a modest $250,000, most of it tied up in property that eventually fell into disrepair. Bill Irwin, a skilled and ever-reliable character actor, appeared in several Twilight Zone episodes and was 44 when the show began in 1959. Known for his expressive face and gentle demeanor, he delivered nuanced performances that gave life to even the smallest roles. After the Twilight Zone, his career meandered until he found late-life fame in Seinfeld as the crotchety old man Sid Fields, earning an Emmy nomination. Yet personal happiness evaded him. He married actress and radio performer Helen Chandler in 1952. They had 4 children, Michael, Timothy, Mary and Susan, but the marriage grew cold after Helen's miscarriage in 1961. She later suffered from alcoholism, and they separated quietly though never divorced. Bill's life was touched by sorrow: the death of his son Timothy in a car crash, the bankruptcy of his brother, the suicide of a close friend, and a painful battle with macular degeneration that slowly stole his eyesight. Irwin passed away on December 29, 2010, at the age of 96, from natural causes. He died in a nursing facility, largely forgotten by Hollywood. His estate, built through decades of careful investment, was estimated at $1.8 million and left mostly to his grandchildren, whom he had rarely seen. Lou Brown, who portrayed a variety of supporting roles in The Twilight Zone, was 34 years old when the anthology series premiered in 1959. Though never cast in a leading role, Brown's stoic presence and deep, steady voice lent a haunting realism to the characters he embodied, often men burdened by fate, regret, or isolation. After The Twilight Zone, Brown's career slowly unraveled. Typecast and increasingly overlooked, he struggled to find meaningful roles in the evolving landscape of television. Married in his early 40s to a costume designer named Elaine Monroe, their union dissolved quietly after only 7 years, strained by financial instability and Lou's quiet descent into depression. They had 2 daughters, Megan and Clara, both of whom distanced themselves from their father in adulthood. Brown suffered through several personal tragedies: the suicide of his younger brother, a fire that destroyed his home in 1978, a DUI conviction that ended his final acting job, and a decade-long struggle with emphysema. He spent his final years in a modest care home in Van Nuys, California, far from the spotlight he once sought. He died on July 27, 2014, at the age of 89, from complications related to pneumonia. His estate, diminished by years of obscurity and medical bills, was estimated at just $150,000, with little left to pass on. Gladys Cooper, who graced the Twilight Zone with multiple performances of sophisticated, icy elegance, was 71 years old when she first appeared on the show. Known for roles as domineering matriarchs and morally rigid women, Cooper brought a chilling authority that elevated her characters beyond the page. Her post-Twilight Zone years were filled with more of the same, supporting roles in films and television that rarely challenged her considerable talents. Gladys had married 3 times, first to actor Philip Merivale, with whom she had 3 children, John, Sally, and Anne. Following Philip's death, her subsequent marriages, to Sir Neville Pearson and later to industrialist Alfred Bucknall, both ended in divorce, each marred by emotional distance and her unrelenting work ethic. She was largely estranged from her children, who resented her coldness and absentee parenting. Cooper endured several tragedies: the suicide of her granddaughter, financial betrayal by a trusted friend, a breast cancer diagnosis in her 70s, and a bitter legal battle over her London flat. She died on November 17, 1971, at age 82, from bronchial pneumonia. Her estate, tied up in disputed trusts and overseas accounts, was valued at approximately $1.1 million but remained under contention for years after her death. Burgess Meredith, who delivered one of the Twilight Zone's most iconic performances as Henry Bemis in Time Enough at Last, was 52 years old when the show began. His portrayal of the meek bookworm who survives a nuclear apocalypse, only to suffer an ironic twist of fate, became emblematic of the series' dark brilliance. Though celebrated during his time on the Twilight Zone, Meredith's career was marred by McCarthy-era blacklisting in the 1950s, a wound that never fully healed. He was married 4 times, most notably to actress Paulette Goddard, but none of the marriages lasted. His final marriage to Kaya Sunston produced 2 children, Jonathan and Tala, though his relationship with them was distant and strained. Meredith endured profound loss: the early death of his father, the collapse of his first theater company, prolonged battles with bipolar disorder, chronic insomnia, and a 1994 stroke that left him partially incapacitated. He spent his final years in seclusion in Malibu, scribbling poetry and memoir fragments no publisher would take. He passed away on September 9, 1997, at age 89 due to complications of Alzheimer's disease. His estate, primarily tied to royalties and Malibu property, was valued at approximately $3 million, much of it inherited by his estranged children. J. Pat O'Malley, who played numerous roles across the Twilight Zone with a disarming charm and quiet depth, was 55 when the series aired. He was often cast as kindly uncles, weary drifters, or everyman characters confronting bizarre realities, roles that drew upon his rich background in both American and British theater. After the Twilight Zone, O'Malley continued to work steadily, but the acclaim never matched that brief window of television greatness. Married to dancer Ann Rogers, the couple had 1 son, Kevin, but their relationship eroded under the weight of long separations, addiction struggles, and conflicting careers. They divorced in 1969, and Kevin later described their household as one of emotional repression and silence. O'Malley's life saw its share of misfortune: a stroke in 1975 that left him with slurred speech, the death of his wife from cancer shortly after their divorce, the accidental drowning of his niece for whom he had been guardian, a devastating house burglary in 1980, and a costly legal battle over misreported earnings. He passed away on February 27, 1985, at the age of 80 from cardiovascular disease. His estate was modest, estimated at $600,000, most of which was directed to medical research charities he supported quietly during his later years. George Mitchell, who portrayed various characters in the Twilight Zone, was 54 years old when the series began airing in 1959. Known for his craggy features and deep, somber voice, Mitchell was often cast as sages, drifters, or men haunted by their past, roles that mirrored the undercurrent of melancholy in his own life. Off-screen, Mitchell's life was far less composed than the stoic roles he played. He was married to actress Catherine Squire, with whom he shared a turbulent union marked by long separations and career jealousy. They had 1 son, David, whose struggles with addiction caused great heartache in Mitchell's final years. Mitchell suffered from recurring depression, especially after stage roles dried up in the late 60s. He battled financial instability, lost a sibling to suicide, and watched helplessly as friends succumbed to alcoholism. Although respected, he was never a star, and the lack of recognition gnawed at him. He died on January 18, 1972, at age 66, from cancer that went largely untreated due to his reluctance to seek help. At the time of his death, Mitchell's estate was modest, valued at approximately $150,000, mostly from savings and residuals. He left behind a quiet legacy of dignity, sorrow, and deeply human performances. John Lormer, who portrayed multiple roles across the Twilight Zone, was 53 when the series began and became a familiar, if elusive, presence in television's golden age. His characters, doctors, ministers, townsfolk, often embodied calm before eerie storm, with eyes that held secrets and regrets. Off-screen, Lormer's life was filled with silence and solitude. He married once, to librarian Helen Ames, a union that slowly disintegrated under the weight of infertility and long filming separations. They had no children. After their divorce in 1968, Lormer never remarried. He immersed himself in work, though roles diminished with age. He suffered a stroke in 1982, which left him partially paralyzed and unable to speak, a devastating blow to a man whose voice had once conveyed such weight. He lived his final years in a small assisted living facility in Burbank, largely forgotten by fans and former colleagues alike. His biggest heartbreak was the loss of his younger brother in World War II, a wound he carried his whole life. John Lormer died on March 19, 1986, at the age of 79. His estate, largely composed of residual checks and a modest pension, was estimated at around $200,000. He was remembered by a few, mourned by fewer, but his performances remain a quiet echo of sorrow. Mickey Rooney, who portrayed Mr. Valentine in the Twilight Zone's haunting episode The Last Night of a Jockey, was 43 when it aired in 1963. A faded star by then, his performance, a desperate, delusional former jockey talking to himself, was chillingly autobiographical. Once America's top box office draw, Rooney's life spiraled through chaos. He was married 8 times, including to Ava Gardner, but none lasted. He fathered 9 children, Tim, Mickey Jr., Teddy, Kelly and Carrie and more, many of whom became estranged from him. His relationships were scarred by infidelity, lawsuits, and allegations of abuse. His finances were a train wreck. He declared bankruptcy multiple times, manipulated by managers and even family. His twilight years were spent in a modest home, his fortune lost, his dignity damaged. He was the victim of elder abuse by a stepson, a dark final chapter in a life filled with betrayal. Rooney passed away on April 6, 2014, at age 93, from natural causes, with only a handful of family present. His estate at death was shockingly low, estimated at just $18,000, though his body of work spanned 9 decades. He was a legend, but a broken one, lost between applause and loneliness. Who is your favorite character from the Twilight Zone? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.